Nope. Nope. Yep. Nope.
Well, the long-awaited and super hyped third entry from Jordan Peele is finally here. I definitely was super excited. I mean, that trailer was awesome, but I also didn't want to go in with too high expectations considering his last film, Us, didn't live up to my expectations. Get Out is a masterpiece. I mean, there's very few people who would say otherwise. However, people need to consider that Jordan Peele spent 6 years writing that script. That's a lot of time to develop a story and really iron out all the kinks that you could have in a story like that. With Us, he pulled that out right off the back of Get Out, and I think that people were holding too high expectations of him. I definitely enjoyed Us quite a bit. It wasn't the best movie. Sure, there was a lot of plot holes, but it definitely was a really exciting and really unique slasher, and for what it's worth, I would rather have a movie that's super unique with some holes in it than the same old shit. And with Jordan Peele, at least you're not going to get the same old shit. So when it comes to Nope, I went in with, very, I think, leveled and fair expectations. However, it did make me a little nervous seeing how mixed all the reviews were going in. I think a lot of people, when you have a director like Jordan Peele, will, either shower them with a bunch of praise or they'll just be haters. And, everyone has been just hyping this up. So am I going to give Nope a yep or a nope? We'll see.
Yeah, nah.
Nope.
Nope.
So as a lot of you probably know, this film draws a lot of inspiration from the works of Steven Spielberg, including Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Of course, sprinkle in a little bit of Signs in there. And honestly, I think Jordan Peele actually reminds me a little bit of M. Night Shyamalan. As far as, they came out with a big hit, and then everyone expects, Shyamalan has his twists. Jordan Peele, they're like, oh, he has his, super meta social commentary. So going into this movie, I think I definitely was kind of looking out for some of the tropes that he puts in there, but also, too, acknowledging and appreciating all the other nods and elements that he borrowed from other works. I will definitely say that this movie didn't feel like a copy of anything. With all the influences that were baked into it, it still felt very fresh and original, which is to be expected from Jordan Peele. I'm going to have this first section be totally spoiler-free. I want people to go in with a blank slate. If you don't want to even hear a single thing, I'll just go ahead and say this right now. I do give Nope a yep. Of course, there's always recency bias, but I actually think this is a really good film, and I liked it a lot better than Us. The film stars Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out as Otis Jr. Haywood, the son of a famous Hollywood horse trainer. Due to mysterious circumstances, he's left to shoulder his father's legacy, but he's clearly lacking the charisma and passion that his father was known for. His sister, Emerald Haywood, played by Keke Palmer, seeks out the Hollywood spotlight, unlike her shy and timid brother. She begrudgingly helps her brother with the business, but the two clearly have a very long and loving history. The two must work together after witnessing a strange phenomenon, the likes of which could bring them the fortune and fame they desire. However, as to be expected, things turn out to be far more sinister and horrific than they could ever imagine. So like I was mentioning before, this borrows a lot from Jaws, Close Encounters, Signs, Tremors, but I think the biggest overarching theme and the thing that you're going to hear a lot of is the idea of spectacle, and both in a literal sense and more of a deeper social sense. And what I mean by that is this movie is definitely more of a straightforward blockbuster when compared to Jordan Peele's previous work. However, he definitely still has that Jordan Peele social commentary touch. It's just not laid on quite as thick. And of course, with that, there's going to be a lot of different interpretations of what this film means, the hidden meanings, the hidden imagery. My personal one that I had after getting out of the film the first time around is that it's a film about obsessing and romanticizing trauma and the monetization of tragedies. And also, too, how the cycle of violence might even be perpetuated by that attention, and that the attention itself can consume you. I think this film can be enjoyed even without having to, think too hard But I definitely think that film is usually elevated when you have some more overarching themes or have at least something to say and not just something pretty to look at. I will say though, this film is very pretty to look at. Fortunately, I did not see it in IMAX. However, I still was able to appreciate the gorgeous cinematography and also too, just the choice of iconography. And what I mean by that is, you've seen it in the trailers, the wacky, flailing inflatable tube men, the biker with the super shiny helmet, just the look of the, UFO object in the sky. There's so many little touches and just visual cues that I think will stick with people long after they leave. And what impressed me more than the visuals was the sound design. Oh my god. If you like beeps and you like boops and you like all the noises, you're gonna love this movie. It is probably the creepiest sci-fi sounds I've heard since Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. For that reason alone, I think it's worth seeing in a theater. When it comes to the performances, Daniel Kaluuya is great as expected. However, I will say at first, I felt like his performance might be a little too stoic or a little too reserved. It was very obvious it was a creative and deliberate choice on Jordan Peele's part and Kaluuya's. However, I wish there would be a little bit more expression from him. But I think that's kind of where Keke Palmer comes in. Whenever you have a more wacky sidekick kind of character, it's very easy to put in too much and make them annoying or just super spastic. But I was actually loving her the entire time. She was super funny, and I think either one of them isolated wouldn't have worked. It's them together. You really believe that they're siblings. You really believe that they've been in each other's lives forever. And she brings out the fun side in him, and then he kind of keeps her grounded. And so, even though, yes, like I said, I felt like Kaluuya's performance might have been, too stoic for my taste. When I saw them together, and also too, there's a lot of moments, when he is on his own and he's seeing some crazy shit. And the way he reacts is very realistic, is very relatable. It's something you don't see often in horror movies. And so I think that, overall they worked very well together, and it was really awesome to see them on screen whenever they were problem solving. Another actor I was really excited to see was Steven Yeun. Now, I wasn't like a big crazy Walking Dead fan, but I'm still a big Steven Yeun fan, and a lot of that is because of Conan O'Brien.
Steven Yeun, international star. Come on in here. Don't look so scared. You okay?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm good.
You all right?
Yeah, this is gonna,
You look worried.
And he was great. However, I really wish there was more of him. His character's resolution was satisfying and definitely had a very pronounced point to it. He definitely played an important role, but he wasn't a mainstay the way I thought he would be as far as interacting with the other characters, and it definitely threw me off a little at first. The film actually focuses on him pretty hard towards the first half of the film, and it just gives you this lasting impression of, oh, he's going to be really, really important, when the reality is he's definitely a not even a tertiary character. He's even, I think, less of a supporting role in that sense. Brandon Perea plays a Fry's Electronics employee, and he's another one of those, wacky sidekick characters who could have been annoying. And I think calling him a wacky sidekick character actually is unfair. He's definitely more low-key and realistic. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about him. I was afraid that he might have been too much of a cartoony stock character. But no, he was actually really great, and he has some of the funniest moments in the whole film. And I definitely think that the three of them have this very love-hate bickering relationship, and it was very fun to watch, and they were the perfect characters to guide you through this kind of story. And I think that's something that Jordan Peele's writing nails consistently across all of his work, is the balance of humor and horror. I think another great film that is similar in that vein would be like something like The First Scream. The First Scream, you can't call an outright comedy, but you also can't say it's just an outright horror film either. It kind of totes the line, and it's just such a fun back and forth game that he plays in his writing and in his filmmaking. And as far as performances go, or I should say as far as characters go, the most disappointing, unfortunately, has to go to Michael Wincott. His character has an interesting setup, but a very disappointing conclusion, at least in my opinion. He felt very underwritten and honestly could have used some more screen time. I really can't go into too many things because how he's involved in the plot, etc., spoilers, but I don't know, it didn't work for me. He had a cool, deep, rough voice, but man, when it came down to actual implementation of his character, it just kind of fell flat for me towards the end. And I know this might seem exaggerated or like recency bias, but I can firmly say that there are many moments in this film that are going to go down as some of my most favorite sci-fi horror moments ever. And I've seen a shitload of sci-fi horror movies. It's up there with Annihilation as one of those spine-tingling movies that just leaves you thinking about the most wild shit well after the credits roll. So if you like to be creeped out or you just like that tense feeling, this movie is not just a bunch of back-to-back jump scares. The jump scares that are there feel earned, in my opinion, and just the overall atmosphere and tone with the sound design, everything. This movie is super, super freaky. I cannot stress that enough. As far as some of the things that annoyed me that aren't spoiler territory, one thing that I just found super distracting is that this film, it seems like a lot of directors and a lot of movies seem to be doing this nowadays. It's divided into chapters, which is fine. However, each chapter is named after a horse, and the whole time I was thinking, oh, what's this building up to? I was trying to connect the dots in my head. It turns out it doesn't really mean anything directly to the plot or really connect at all, and it ended up feeling like a gimmick, and I was so distracted by it, and in my head, I'm trying to solve this puzzle when there was nothing there to be solved, and it makes me wonder why they did it. I might actually look it up, and then I'll bring it up in the spoiler section just in case, but I don't know, it bugged me. I didn't like it. Definitely came off as gimmicky, and I think it lent to the confusion a lot of people had on what the meaning of this movie is. Funny enough, I actually think this is the least cryptic and most straightforward of all of Jordan Peele's work so far. But when you put striking imagery on display and all these themes thrown in the way he does, you can't help but dig in places where there's nothing to be found. Not to say that there wasn't any hidden meaning at all, or anything like that, but this movie definitely operates first and foremost as just a blockbuster, which is a good thing. Not every movie has to be the most complicated layered cake of all time. You can just make a piece of entertainment. And again, not to say that this film doesn't have any hidden meanings, I'll go more into that into the spoiler section, but I wouldn't try and burn your hairs looking for things in this particular movie. I'll definitely say if you have super bad claustrophobia, there is a particular scene in this movie. My friend who was with me, who was sitting next to me, he was telling me it was bugging him. It'll definitely make you feel like shit, and this is so embarrassing. I'm so embarrassed to admit this. I legitimately could not stop thinking about this particular scene. I had nightmares the night I watched it, and I won't even lie, I've never had a panic attack before. At least I don't think so, but I definitely felt very uncomfortable for a few hours after I watched it, and which is great. I mean, that's awesome. That means that it worked. It was scary as shit and just totally disturbing, but just a warning, if you have claustrophobia or anything like that, or you get anxious easily, this movie does not fuck around. So while the movie may have not worked as the most cohesive whole, I think that all the individual pieces that are there that shine were good enough for me that it honestly overshadowed any of the bad parts. I definitely think that this movie deserves the praise it's gotten, and like I said, there's a couple things that bothered me, but a lot of it's going to come down to the bias I have as far as personal niche fears and just things that I enjoy or that interest me. So for me, it's kind of hard to give it a fair rating to kind of pinpoint precisely what's wrong with this movie. It lacks focus. It's very much being pulled in a few different directions, and because of that, the ride feels kind of jerky. But it's still a ride you're going to remember, and I think it's one that most people are going to enjoy overall. And again, if you're someone like me who just has this sweet spot for atmospheric science fiction horror, it's definitely going to check a lot of your boxes and just be a really fun theater experience. So for now, just to be safe, I'm gonna go with a 7.5 out of 10. Very respectable. Go see it in theaters. You know, I didn't get to see it in IMAX. In hindsight, I would have loved to see it in IMAX. So go out, see it big, see it loud, bring a lot of friends. You know, don't have a panic attack and shit yourself like I almost did. And you know, I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, nah.
Do you want spoilers? Nope. Then get the fuck out. Do you want spoilers? Yup. Then come on in, baby. First things first, let's address the monkey in the room. Gordy's home is easily the highlight of the entire movie, which is a goddamn shame considering how much it doesn't actually relate to the main plot. It is simultaneously the highlight and the detriment of the entire thing. I've been seeing a lot of articles pop up about the hidden meaning behind the chimpanzee, and I'm like, bro, there's not any hidden meaning. That shit was just so good, everyone wishes it was its own movie. That's why I was saying earlier in this review that people were reading too much into this and kind of fixating on things. But you really can't blame the audience considering such a significant portion of time is spent on it. It's quite literally the opening sequence of the film, and then 2 flashbacks appear again in the middle of the movie, but this time we see an even longer and extended version of it. It's conflicting to want more while also acknowledging that it's unnecessary. The scariest part about it is that it's not even really fictional. That's a real life occurrence, and it shows just how brutal and unpredictable Mother Nature can be. It also serves as an excellent backstory behind Steven Yeun's character and ultimately leads to a very dark reveal. And by the way, I'm not saying that it has no meaning or doesn't relate at all. I'm just saying it's not like a hidden cryptic meaning. So obviously, Gordy is supposed to represent, you know, the lack of control. Obviously in Steven Yeun's character, that was the most traumatic and horrible event of his entire life, and it obviously was hurting him very much. But regardless of that fact, he still used it as a means to get money. He commercialized it, and you know, he basically was just sucked into the Hollywood system at such a young age. You almost you know, feel bad for him, even though what he's doing is pretty shitty. And the way that Shu stands up, and you know, he places it the same exact way in his little like shrine, his little like theme park exhibit. It's like, damn, dude. It's almost like some like really fucked, broken coping mechanism or something. And you can tell that's the greatest thing about his performance, is that, you know, they flash between him as an adult and him as a child, and you see that trauma on his face. But there's several moments where you can just see he's bottling it all up inside, and he really believes that he can overcome, you know, the alien, and that he can basically recreate that event in his past but have control over it, and clearly he fucking didn't. And of course, it all goes back to spectacle, how we love to romanticize horrible events and things that have happened to people. We love to talk about it and obsess about it, stare at it. You know, that's really the whole meaning of the movie. And I think that was made very clear. I don't really think that was a hidden meaning or anything like that. I think the theme was very much face value, which is fine, again. But it just sucks that scene had to be so damn good. I love me a good ape shit, crazy fucking monkey. And speaking of dark reveals, that jean jacket alien reveal, woo! Man, that's what I was talking about when I said I was about to have a panic attack. The reveal that it's a living entity and not just a flying saucer is one of the most clever and unique twists I've seen in a long ass time. Whenever it clicked for me in my head, it was just so, you know, horrific and claustrophobic. It was just a fucked nightmare. It's one of the just grossest things I've ever witnessed. And sure, you can say they don't show that much, but I still think the imagery of, you know, innocent families all being compressed together in this tight space, like they're, you know, stuck inside like a giant bounce house, and they're just being digested, and they're burning alive, and they're all being, you know, screaming together in agony, and it's just this like very intimate slow, painful ass death. It's something I'm gonna be haunted by forever. It actually reminded me a lot of the 1980s remake of The Blob. That's another movie. If you want to be like, if you like that scene and you want to be fucked up, watch the 1980s Blob. I swear, it'll mess you up. It's not something you might realize on first viewing, but the reason why Jean Jacket makes all those crazy screeching sounds is because it's the sound of everything inside of it dying and screaming for help. I mean, damn, dude, that is a great concept, and it really works. It also kind of brings me back to my mention of Annihilation. If you've ever seen that movie, there's a certain creature, it's a bear. It's the bear scene. That's all you need to know. Watch Annihilation, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I think another really bone-chilling element to the creature that I really liked was the fact that it cannot see you unless it is perceived by you. I mean, that's the most cosmic horror Lovecraftian shit you can have. That's such a great concept, and it really just adds to the otherworldly, like, existential dreamlike nature of this thing. I mean, for all we know, it's not even an alien. It's just something that, you know, is an ancient creature on Earth. I mean, the fact that it can camouflage as a cloud, it uses electromagnetic propulsion to move, and because of that, it doesn't really make a sound other than the sound of things that are screaming inside of it. I mean, man, Jordan Peele really knocked it out of the park with this one. This is gonna, I think, be a very iconic movie monster for a long time. And anything that could get my imagination running like this, to me, is just really exciting, and I just didn't expect to have that much love for a creature. I mean, you feel like you've seen everything, and then you're pleasantly surprised. My two biggest fears as a child were giant monsters like, you know, Godzilla, Cloverfield, etc., anything big, and then alien abductions, because my dad was obsessed with, like, History Channel Ancient Aliens for some reason, and because he took me to watch Signs when I was 7. So that's what I meant when I said this film caters to my biases. I love me some monkeys, I love giant monsters, and I'm terrified of aliens. It's the perfect storm. So now for some of the more disappointing elements in the spoiler section here. The death of the cameraman, or the cinematographer, at the end of the movie was so stupid. He felt super underdeveloped. The way he died was fine in theory, but there was very little dialogue or time spent with him to give us the impression he was, you know, suicidal, or that, you know, he's an artist dying for his craft and he's obsessed with leaving a legacy. You know, that's a trope that we've seen before and can be done well. But, you know, doesn't he know that if he gets sucked up with the camera, that thing is probably going to get digested, and even if it's not, if it's spit out as violently as it spit out all the other things, that camera is going to explode, and that film is going to be damaged. Like, what was the point of that? It's not like he didn't know how it worked. Like, he knew if he looked at it, it would kill him. So I don't know. I tried to do the math in my head, but the more I think about the scene, the more I hate it. I mean, they could have at least given him some dialogue, like, oh, you know, my life's not worth living unless I have the perfect shot, or, you know, maybe they even did, and I just didn't hear it. But, you know, even if he was like, I'm going in, boys, like, I would have accepted that, but no, it just felt really rushed, really dumb, and I don't know. It was annoying. Fortunately, it was followed up by one of the most epic anime transformations of all time. And yes, I did say anime because that motherfucker is definitely inspired by the Neon Genesis Evangelion Angel. I even made this spoilers without context meme immediately after getting out of the theater because I thought it was a noteworthy addition. To my absolute cocky satisfaction and surprise, Jordan Peele revealed in an interview that yes, he was in fact inspired by the design of Sahagul, I think. It's the 10th Angel. It's the one in 2.0. I'll put the video up on the screen. And I gotta say, the man's got good taste in anime. And I always love when an alien in a movie doesn't look like a humanoid, like Star Trek or Star Wars type alien, you know, doesn't stand upright. Of course, what comes to mind is, you know, Annihilation, of course. Arrival is another really good one. It really makes you feel like this thing is not like anything else we've ever seen before, even though, yeah, this one kind of looks like a stingray, but still, you know what I mean. It's just not like fucking E.T. or Yoda or some shit. And it's so cool the way it like when it's looking at people at the end, it kind of like turns into like geometry, and you see what I assume is like either the brain or the eye or like the central hub of this thing like turn into a bunch of little squares, and it looks exactly like a camera sensor if you like pop open the lens of a digital camera. I'm sure that was the intention, since again the movie's about like spectacle and like looking at things, etc. But you know, even the opening scene of the film is like screaming, and like the like I guess like the fucking cheeks are like the alien like going like this, and like you see like the sensor in the middle. It's a very simple but creepy image, very reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it was just I mean, this alien was fucking cool. I don't know what to say. And of course I can't bring up anime without at least giving my final compliment to this film. That fucking Akira reference, dude. That was so cool. I mean, look, I got the bike. I got the bike in the background right now. That Akira bike slide, God, that was so cool. It was only like 2 seconds long. My brain was immediately like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I was like, shit, there it is. If you don't know, Jordan Peele was actually asked to direct the live action Akira. God forbid that actually comes out. But he turned it down because he said he would prefer to make his own original IPs. Holy shit, did he give a little wink and a little nod to the audience. It was so satisfying. I absolutely loved it. It was kick-ass. You know, Kiki Palmer does the slide. I'll show a compilation here of all the other slides that have copied Akira. And, you know, having an Evangelion and Akira reference back-to-back just made me love this movie more. Like I said, I'm being biased here. This movie's messy, but damn, I mean, that's really cool to see in a big blockbuster. So, I mean, Akira, Evangelion, giant aliens, scary monsters, monkeys. This movie's great. 10 out of 10. I'm sure there's some other complaints and other things I'm forgetting. One thing that just kind of came to my mind is the wacky inflatable tube guys. Well, that whole set piece definitely will be iconic. I mean, people are going to imitate that. I mean, it's a very clever set piece. The fact that this thing can't tell the difference between a living thing looking at it and a giant inflatable airbag is kind of stupid, but again, you can shrug it off and be like, it's an alien, you know, who knows. Other than that, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. It's better than Us. I have to say it's probably my personal favorite of all of his work, just because it catered to the things I enjoyed. Get Out will never be topped, but it doesn't need to be. He just needs to keep putting out cool original content, which he's done so far. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the movie, and don't run into any stage jumps.